secured the blessings of
give us a heart of compassion and grace. This nation, from Miami to Minneapolis and from Portland to El Paso, ask you to shepherd us to a hope-filled vision that does justice, ama la misericordia, and walks humbly before you. I pray this in the matchless name of Jesus. Amen.
Welcome to our convention across America. We had hoped to gather in one place, but instead we figured out a safe and responsible way to come together to share our ideas and talk about the future of our country. And that's the kind of leadership we need right now. That's the kind of leadership that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will bring to the White House. So during the next 4 nights, we will gather safely from our homes to listen, to learn, to be inspired, to act, to vote.
Wait, is that Eva Mendes?
To build that more perfect union. I am honored to be with you this evening. I'm here tonight as a 9th-generation Texan, as a daughter of a veteran and a teacher, as a mother, as a voter, and as a patriot. I share Joe Biden's belief that the story of America is one of ordinary people coming together to do extraordinary things. And at our best, our country rewards hard work. We celebrate diversity. We look out for each other, and we lift one another up. So tonight, we're going to begin with the simple kindness we've been extending to each other a lot lately. We're going to check in with folks around the country and ask, how are you doing?
Yeah! That's how we're doing.
Tonight we have Scott. Scott, you are a small business owner from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Small businesses have been hit so hard in this crisis, so many small businesses. How are you doing? How are you managing?
Well, you know, it's been rough. Rough is a nice word to say. My wife and I, 31 years ago, began our business, and quite honestly, over all these years, we faced some adversity and challenges, but to be honest, nothing like we are today. We've literally had to reinvent our business several times since the beginning of the year, just to stay afloat. And you know, our revenue, for example, is off about 40%. We have half of the employees that we had pre-COVID, and you know, our customers are a little scared. Our employees are sometimes afraid to come to work because of the COVID. And to be honest with you, I'm just frustrated. I don't understand how we got here. We are the greatest nation in the world. And it just seems to me that, you know, maybe if we just came together on this one issue alone, maybe as Americans and being united, we can overcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott, for sharing your story. I'm sure many small business owners feel the same way that you're feeling now. We wish you the best for your business and, of course, for your family. Now I'd like to turn to Marley Diaz, who is 15 years old from West Orange, New Jersey. She is a literary activist, an author, and she is the founder of 1,000 Black Girl Books. Marley, so many young people are struggling with the changes due to COVID. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, I feel better every day. I feel more hopeful. I thought this was going to be a few weeks at first where I wouldn't see my friends and I would just stick it out. But obviously, as it's grown longer, I really want to focus on activism and still spreading important messages, given the fact that I can't go out. So I started doing virtual read-alouds online, which has been so fun, getting to interact and meet new kids and encourage and promote the joy that we can find in reading and in learning. It's also super fun to see teenagers like me going on social media and talking about social issues and injustices that they care about, because sometimes you don't have that space in school. So I hope that a year from now, you know, we get to go back and be safe and be protected, we will still have these conversations and still have a new possibility in a new world.
Yes, thank you so much, Marley. You're such an inspiration. I don't think I was doing half of what you're doing at 15, and I love seeing how brave and creative your generation is to create. So thank you so much for your
God, this is such yuck.
Let's check in with Rick. Rick, you are a farmer from Volant, Pennsylvania. Your farm has been in your family for generations. What have the trade wars and the pandemic done to your family's life work?
Trade wars?
Well, first of all, I'd like to offer the Trump family our condolences for his loss. Getting back to the business side of it, the trade war was it was a real stressful and truly a devastating effect on a farm. Most probably what people can relate to mostly in agriculture is soybean tariffs. And then whenever you compound the effects of the COVID-19 virus, nobody could have prevented that. It's a shame our leadership misinformed people like myself and the country on what was coming down the road. You know, my biggest concern is that if these trends continue with this type of leadership, I will be the last generation farming this farm.
Yeah, it's a scary thought, and I'm sure a lot of farmers
I don't
feel the same way.
You know, I don't have the answers, but past experiences, if something doesn't work for you, it's time for a change. And that's why I support
places of power to really come out with a strong message and say, you know, enough is enough.
Rick, I couldn't agree
So you
with you
need
more.
some louder
we
voices than
need
what we're hearing
change
right
and
now. Is that
leadership
correct?
That will support family farms like yours. So we wish you the best.
I think it would help. I think, you know, this problem is being addressed by the mayor, myself, Darryl Turner. You hear a lot. The DA has made a statement about holding people accountable, but there are still some really powerful voices in the city, in the county, the state level too, that I think would be helpful in bringing this to a close.
I'm sure the community would like that, because I think every day they either watch television, they hear from their neighbors what has happened the night before, and it's very distressing to think what is happening in downtown Portland on a nightly basis. And I'm sure they're hoping this community, in one way or another, in many different forms, can step up and put an end to the violence that's happening out there, so we can get to the bigger discussion of how to move forward with racial justice. You agree with that, Chief?
I do. We have officers who are, you know, they're tired. They've been working 80 nights straight. They want to get back to giving Portlanders police service. It's difficult when we're spending the amount of money and resources on what is really a very small group of people, and it's causing, you know, Portlanders to wait hours and hours for a police response for their emergencies. So I think it's really across the board. We really want to get back to regular police service.
You know, I hear from people all the time, why can't the police just arrest more people down there? And you say,
well, it's a difficult one. When you have a large crowd of people and officers are outnumbered, you have to now wade into a crowd of a large amount of people to arrest people potentially in the back of that crowd who are throwing rocks, engaged in violent criminal activity. And it's very difficult to wade your way through, you know, hundreds of people sometimes to find
all right, thank you. I want to move on to Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt, now brand new to the office. In fact, officially took that job on August 1st, and you have been thrown right smack into the middle of the fire. If we can bring the prosecutor in now, and certainly you've been hearing from folks, I'm sure, prosecuting certain protesters out there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, the announcement that I made last week was that we were going to have a presumption of certain types of nonviolent cases that if they don't meet certain criteria, we're not going to be prosecuting those. So it's not a straight bar on no prosecutions, but we're going to be screening every single case. And if there is not violence or property damage or lighting things on fire, we are going to prosecute those cases. Fire, property damage, things like that, violence against other persons. But for the cases without any indicia of that violence where people are in the crowd, the presumption is going to be that those are the types of cases that we are not likely to move forward on.
You know, prosecutor, that some folks out there believe that this sends the wrong message at this time, that telling the protesters, the violent ones, that they will not be prosecuted for certain crimes says, hey, go out and do what you want, and then we'll deal with you later on. Would you agree? I'm sure you're hearing from people out there as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm hearing from lots of folks. But again, to be clear, the violent protesters, people are throwing rocks, like the chief said, people are lighting things on fire. We are prosecuting those cases. The case that you started off at the top of the show talking about, where a man was assaulted. When we get evidence, you know, and we review that evidence, it meets legal sufficiency, we are going to prosecute that case. So we are absolutely going to be prosecuting the case with the violence. We are here now on, like you said, over 80 days. We've had an accumulation of cases, over 400 cases of misdemeanor type charges that do not allege any types of the violence that we are talking about. We're screening each and every single one of those cases. But when we're looking at those are not people with criminal records and histories and things of that nature, by and large. So prosecuting those cases are of limited public safety value. We're going to focus our resources and attention on the cases where damage is done.
I want to bring in Multnomah County Sheriff Mike Reese now. And Sheriff, I know you've had a little bit to say about the announcement from the prosecutor's office regarding these charges. Does this make your job tougher?
Well, let me start by saying that Mike and I are kindred spirits in our efforts to make a criminal justice system here in Multnomah County that reflects the values of our community and something that we can all be proud of. And the district attorney asked me for my thoughts on the proposed policy that he was enacting, and I gave those. I provided my insight, and I wouldn't read more into it than that. I will say that protests are probably the most challenging thing that we manage in policing these days. It's really difficult, as Chief Lavelle said, when you've got people that are engaged in peaceful protest, and then you have others that are mixed in with that, taking advantage of that situation, engaged in criminal behavior. The police have to be fair and consistent in how they manage these events, and they have to be proportional in their response to them. And again, they're very, very challenging. Our Portland police officers, our Multnomah County deputy sheriffs, and our Oregon State troopers are doing their very best in challenging circumstances.
When you first heard the announcement from the district attorney's office, Sheriff, what were your thoughts?
Well, certainly the police have to make operational decisions based on the circumstances that they find themselves in and make decisions to arrest or not arrest. We have that discretion as police officers in the state of Oregon. And I thought Chief Lavelle, in one of his statements, really hit it well in that we're not trying to arrest anyone. We're there to support people's right to peacefully protest in our community. When we have to make arrests, we want to make them proportional to the events. And the district attorney's office then has to make a decision based on the resources and the case that's presented to them as well.
All right, Sheriff, thank you. I want to bring in Katrina Holland, who's a community member and from Reimagine Oregon project. Katrina, thank you for being on the program as well. And staying on the topic at this point of the protests, and you don't believe that the violence of the protests are really distracting from the overall message. Is that true?
Well, I think it's really important for us to contextualize what we're seeing, which is there is a significant disease that raids America, that has infected America and has been in existence for centuries, which is a system that has sanctioned violence, negligence, discrimination, disparate treatment of Black people and against Black people, and the rejection of opportunities to fix or remedy that when we have an opportunity to do it because we're afraid of backlash or we're afraid of political opportunities that may not be available to us in making these bold steps. I mean, I think, for example, I have to go back to this incident on Sunday. We have to contextualize what that situation was. Saturday, Proud Boys were in town, and they are known for inciting racial violence. I don't know if this person identified themselves as a Proud Boys member, but based off of the videos that I watched and who was engaged in that conflict, it seems as though there were racial slurs probably thrown to those young Black people. And instead of sitting by and tolerating it, they decided to do something about it. Obviously, it's not a choice that I would make, but I cannot single-handedly condemn people who are frustrated. I think at one point in the video, the young Black man was yelling at the dude saying, "Hey, I belong in this country. I'm not going anywhere." And so my question to folks is, what do we expect that young Black man to do in that instance? What is the appropriate response? When we kneel, when we peacefully kneel, nobody listens. When we peacefully demand policy demands, nobody listens. When we ask for policy changes and produce these vast, elaborate reports, incremental change is done when we have violence being committed, sanctioned violence being committed against Black bodies. So in as much as it hurt my heart to see that young man make that choice in that instance, which could potentially ruin his life because he's now viewed as a thug or as somebody who assaulted him, I cannot sit here and say that maybe he was called a word that I probably shouldn't say on live TV. I happened to watch the video before that where the person revved their engine and was essentially threatening to drive through this group of protesters and almost ran over a young woman's foot, a young Black woman's foot. So I'm not saying that violence is a choice that I would make, but riots and violence are the language of the unheard, and Black folks have been being unheard for so long. So if we really want to fix it, we need to prosecute the system that has been committing sanctioned violence against Black bodies.
Katrina, what do you say to the folks who say we need to put this violence aside before we can get on to the bigger discussion of racial justice? This needs to be set aside. Folks are all for the peaceful protest. What do you say to them?
Peaceful protest in this particular instance, in many cases, has not resulted in the change that folks are asking for. Obviously, I am not sitting here calling for violent protest, but I believe that it is untrue that we have to put the violence aside or make sure that these small groups of people need to stop what they're doing first in order to be heard. We just saw recently that at PSU, they decided to disarm the police officers that are in their schools. That happened in the midst of this violence. People continued to act. I don't know what caused it. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't part of that discussion. But to say that in order for us to move forward, the violence needs to stop, I think, distracts from the original purpose of the conversation, which again is on prosecuting the sanctioned violence against Black bodies.
I want to bring in Reverend Edie Mondame, who's been on our program before. Reverend, thank you for being here. You wrote an opinion piece about the protests, calling them largely a white spectacle. What did you mean by that, sir?
Well, this is a spectacular moment in history, and it's a spectacular moment that we'll never, ever get again. I'm in concert with the voice of Miss Holland when she talks about the systems and the protesters being there. Now, we have to listen to the sounds of the sidewalks. Even though we see the noise coming from the ground, the rocks and stones themselves will begin to holler out. We've got to remember that this is a 60-year mounting pressure that we thought did away with the 300-year problem in the 1960s. When our clarion criers to justice and freedom were killed, we gave it signaled that we had overcome and we had gotten much further in dismantling racism and systemic racism, particularly than we had. So the mounting pressure of understanding that it had not dissipated is what we're seeing now. Just like when Mount St. Helens blew up, that's what we're seeing. And the noise is not going to stop, and the violence is not going to stop. The low-hanging fruit and even some of the high-hanging fruit is not going to make the changes that we're going to see or that are necessary to begin to quiet some of the noise that we're going.
All right, lost the Reverend there at the very end, but we certainly got his message there. I want to bring in Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty now. And Commissioner Hardesty, of course, you have long supported the peaceful protests. You were encouraging the feds to leave town, which they did. Now that they have left and the violence continues at many of these protests at night, Commissioner, give me your thoughts.
First, thank you so much for allowing me to come back. You know, I find it fascinating that 4 people have spoken and no one has talked about video evidence of police beating protesters who were involved in peaceful protests. No one has talked about the riot gear, the aggression, even at the beginning of a protest where no violence has been displayed. No one has talked about the impact of almost 80 days of tear gas to people who live downtown. And so every day I get a report from Portland Police on their perception of what happened the night before. And then I read every newspaper, I go to every live stream, and then I compile a list that you would think they were different countries, much less the exact same city at the same time. I think there's a challenge when all the information we get is from a law enforcement perspective, because I have seen some things that have frightened me. And why do police show up prepared to go to war if they're expecting a peaceful protest? I mean, there are questions that we haven't started asking yet. And honestly, I just kept sitting here thinking somebody's going to talk about the police attacking unarmed community members. And you may remember, before the feds came, Portlanders were being tear gassed by Portland police. When the feds came, Portland police joined the feds in tear gassing community members that were peacefully protesting. So that's the big picture. We can't talk about violence without talking about police violence and how every single night a riot is declared. We can't have a riot every night. We had a riot one night, and that was the very first Friday night. That was a riot. We have not had a riot. So when police use inflammatory language, if there are a few people, Portland has the tools to be able to identify those few people, and I know Mike Smith will prosecute them. If there are a few people that are creating a problem, why are you sending 50 police in riot gear to show up to peaceful protests? We have to talk about all the violence and how we bring all the violence to an end.
All right, Commissioner, thank you very much. I want to bring in now Gabriel Johnson, who's a community member, also a business person in Portland. And I know, Gabriel, you, in the beginning, certainly supported the Black Lives Matter protests downtown. Give me your thoughts now.
Well, first thing I'd like to do is take the mayor up on his invite to work with him, because as a community member, I would love to work with him. So please, Mr. Mayor, if you hear this call, I would love to come work with you. I'm probably going to stand up here and say some things that people don't either like or want to hear. And I'm looking around the room because there's quite a few Black members in this room, people from my community. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you is I take tremendous issue with Ms. Hardesty and what she just said, because I'm a Black man. And I went down to the federal courthouse to display my patriotism, to display that the American flag is about unity and that we should be uniting this country rather than tearing this country down. One of the things that Ms. Hardesty, the mayor, our police commissioner, other people in the community aren't talking about are the black and black crimes that happen. I witnessed a Black 65-year-old veteran who stopped a Black young lady from burning American flag. After this elderly gentleman went to return my flag, what was followed was by Black members of our community, everybody, our community, beat this man and stomp him, Black on Black. So we're not talking about what happens every single night.
It was a good
run. The people that were on that video last night that I watched, 3 blocks from my home, I am so disgusted. Those same people that beat that Black man, that called me the N-word, that called me a coon, that called me all these names, riot ribs, they're right there. Right there. This is happening in our city. This is not right. I'm sorry for my display of emotion, but what's happening is beyond Black Lives Matter. We're tearing down our community. We're being gaslighted every day in the media. What's happening is just wrong. It needs to stop. And it starts with the Black community leading ourselves out of this situation, because we're going to be the only ones that can do it. Not, and excuse me, people of non-color aren't the ones to lead us out of this. We need to take responsibility for our own communities and for ourselves and be about change, because all this other stuff's not about change. Thank you.
Gabriel, thank you. No need to apologize for your emotions, that is for sure. I want to bring in the police chief once again. I want to go back to what the Commissioner Hardesty was saying, talking about her concerns about police officers attacking protesters, and no one had brought that up prior to her discussion. Give me your thoughts. I want to give you a chance to talk about that as well and respond.
Yeah, thank you. You know, we're out there to assist people in exercising their First Amendment rights. We're there to support them in doing that safely. It is not our desire to use force, to use gas, to make arrests. When we encounter violent criminal activity, we address it with the tools that we have at our disposal to do it. We have a high level of accountability. When we do use force, it's reported, it's transparent. And, you know, when we find instances where we've done something wrong, we hold people accountable. We look at this, you know, very closely. When these things are reviewed, we go through a long process, and we look at, you know, just the whole process of our crowd control for opportunities where we can do things better. Throughout this 80 days, we've evolved a lot of our tactics. We don't use CS gas very often. We use the tools necessary to keep officers safe and to keep community members safe. And when we do use force, please know that we use it as a last resort, and we use it with discretion. And when we do, we investigate it, and we hold people accountable who do it outside of our directives and policies.
All right, Chief, thank you. I want to bring in another community member, Candace Avalos, Black Millennial Movement. You believe, Candace, that protests need to run their course. Is that right?
Absolutely. And honestly, I have this pit in my stomach as I'm listening to this conversation, because I feel like there is not only a lack of contextualizing this conversation in how history has shown that we have continued to fight for what we believe is equality and have continued to be ignored. And I think it also just speaks to, you know, people keep saying, well, how are we going to end the protests and how are we going to come to a close? And I want our leaders to reflect on how not taking decisive actions in the beginning when people come out to the streets to protest has created this problem. I want there to be accountability for how leaders respond to the people that they represent. And I want there to be some kind of making sure that there is action, tangible action, that people feel that they are being heard. We are a city that is really proud to come out and protest what we believe. And it's important that we recognize that when we talk about violence, again, to echo Commissioner Hardesty, you cannot speak about violence without speaking about police violence. Literally, the entire reason people are out there protesting is because of police violence, historic police violence against Black and brown communities. So I feel like, you know, unfortunately for our leaders who didn't take that decisive action in the beginning and didn't show solidarity with people and instead chose to be the gatekeepers of status quo, we're at the situation. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know that looking to the people that have continuously been disenfranchised to constantly asking them for the answers is not what we're asking. And I want to see leaders step up and be transparent about how they're going to move forward with our demands.
Candace, thank you very much. How do we bring protesters and police together? That is a big question. And one man who knows a little bit about that is Randy Blazak, the Coalition Against Hate Crimes. He's working with the DOJ, Department of Justice, to do just that. Tell us about that, Randy, your efforts.
Well, we are at a point, I think, where we have to figure out what all this protest means. I mean, Oregon history matters. Oregon was founded as a white supremacist state. I don't think a lot of people know that, but in 1859, we were built as the white-only state, and we've continued that practice, and that practice has marginalized and traumatized people for generations. And so what we're seeing now is the accumulation of a lot of very intense, deep trauma, and we have to find a way to heal. And one of the ways to build that healing is to start having conversations that look at racism both systemically, but also how we, white people, marginalize brown and black people in our daily lives and how we exclude them and don't invite them to the conversation. And so we are going to participate in a conversation that, with a little bit of help from the Federal Department of Justice, that brings some of these community stakeholders and Portland police together to have a conversation about how we go forward. But the most important part of this is how we heal, because this trauma is real. So the first step is to stop traumatizing people. That would be the #1 recommendation. And number 2 is how do we build real community healing that includes white people looking at how they engage in some of these practices without even being aware of it.
Randy, thank you very much. I want to bring in another community member now. Michael Richards was on our first town hall about racial justice, had lots to say, lots of good things for us. I want to bring Michael back on the program now. And Michael, we look back, we were last together on June 8th. Since June 8th, a lot has happened in this city regarding protests and other things. Give me your thoughts on what has happened and how we're moving forward. Are you seeing progress?
So as far as the protests go, this is what I would say. I've said it before, that protest really, I've been down there for myself plenty of times. That protest ain't got nothing to do with black people. I'm a black man of this city. I'm really of the community. Like I said last time I came here, we are where we're located right now. I grew up 2 blocks away from here in this community. So what's downtown has nothing to do with us. I talk to my community every day. Some of the people in my community have met. A large number of the black people in the community have already sat down and we have met with each other and have tried to come up with our own solution.
We know, Daniel. We've all seen the video. We've all seen the guy get punt kicked in the back of the head.
You guys have we have white people downtown. But let me just say it straight up for what it is. You got some white antagonists downtown fighting with the police. You got our mayor on. I don't know whose side he's on. I don't trust him. Chief Lavelle, I don't know what you about either. I don't know what any of these people are about, because as these people are downtown fighting the police, and they're saying, oh, we don't want the police around here, but we have 18 murders last month, and most of those people were of my people. So because we can't call the police to help these murders and solve these problems that we have within the community, that to me it's like 2 + 2 is 4. If you guys don't see that, you're absolutely out of your mind. And so I don't care what about this protest downtown. The truth is, what's really going on with us is we're economically not part of the situation. Right now, Oregon is 5% black. The money that, if you want to deal with any type of problems of a community, you pay taxes. Taxes is how you deal with it. And so all the people that are of the white descent of Oregon, they pay taxes. They have, their money is within this system. You're not going to tell them no. The black people, you don't have to say nothing to, because it's 5% of us and we have no part of the tax margin. I worked in the marijuana industry. Right now in Oregon, we have one of the most biggest products in America right now is the marijuana industry, and we're cut out of it. Right now, nobody's going to stand up and say, let us give you guys the necessary licenses to get in. You're not going to pull up nobody from the black community, from the foundational black community. I'm not talking about the people of color, because I don't do that neither with you guys. I'm not people of color. I'm black. I'm a foundational black American. My people were slaves. My ancestors were slaves. They actually came over here and helped build this country. They have got nothing for it. So I'm not talking about all the other people that tie themselves to this situation. That is not what we're speaking of. We're speaking of the people that have been disenfranchised by everything going on. We get it. You want us to fight the police. We're not even, if you talk to the real black community, some of us don't even care, because we know that that's not a real fight. We get it. We know racism exists. We get it. So if y'all talk about fighting the police, y'all talking about fighting the wrong situation here. And if you're talking about what's going on downtown, I don't care. And a lot of black people don't care. A lot of us don't care. This brother said he cared. I'm sorry that you had to go through what you go through, because I have a problem with that too. Listen, there's black people down there signed up with those movements down there that are causing havoc. They're probably getting a check for that. For some reason, I just feel like our mayor knows this. I feel like don't nobody want to say that, but I'm so glad that y'all gonna give me a minute, because I feel like the mayor knows it. I feel like the mayor is absolutely in on it. And I feel like everybody downtown is pretty much in on the joke, but black people right now. But I really hope that y'all really serious. This is my thing. If you're very serious about helping black people, let's start here tomorrow, or today. You got all these powerful white people in this building. You guys have the power. get some of these black people, get us on that same board with this $100 million that y'all just paid in taxes in April. Get us on that same board so we can get a part of that money, so we can start making absolute decisions, because we can't make none if we don't pay none of your bills and take some of your money back. And you guys know that.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate that. Certainly, we see the frustration out there from a lot of folks. Mayor Wheeler, I want to bring you back in because your name was mentioned a couple of times. Give me your thoughts on what Michael had to say.
I think Michael would probably be surprised that I agree with a lot of what he said. First of all, I hear the anger and I hear the frustration, and I guess where I would go with this is point out that he's right when he's talking about economics being the center of everything. There's no question that the black community has been systematically excluded from economic opportunities, whether it's housing, whether it's access to capital, whether it's support for small business development, whether it's basic education, training, whatever. He's 100% right. That is demonstrably, factually true. Where I'd like him to work with me is on the initiatives that we have already put in place that focus exactly on filling those gaps. The federal money that came to us for the COVID recovery, a lot of it has gone towards specifically our BIPOC communities to help those small businesses thrive and survive through the COVID crisis. Prior to COVID, we had the Inclusive Business Resource Network. That's a support network for 1,000 businesses that are owned or operated by people of color. We have other programs that are specifically geared towards black households, like our North-Northeast housing strategy, the funds we put into household resiliency and support through our last budget, as well as the federal COVID dollars. So there's a lot of work that we're already doing in the community to close the economic gap that Michael is raising. And so rather than spinning potential conspiracy theories, what I wish you would do is come and talk to me and join us and be part of what we're trying to do here to close those gaps.
Mayor, thank you. I want to bring in another community member we had on our first town hall as well. Very outspoken in a very articulate fashion. Cameron Witten joins us now. Black Millennial Movement. Cameron, thank you for coming on the program again. You've been listening to all this, no question about it. Give me your thoughts on what you've been hearing so far.
This is such an important dialogue that our city needs to have right now. And it's important for us to center the truth, center our authenticities in this moment, because we don't have time to waste to do the right thing. The thing that is most important for us to recognize is that we are not distracted. Portland is currently leading, commanding the national narrative on racial justice. We are seeing the fight for Black Lives Matter, not just in downtown, but in all corners of Portland. We see kids marches happening in Southeast Portland. We see car caravan protests led by the disability community in North Portland. Everywhere, we are stepping up. New initiatives like Reimagine Oregon, Justice Oregon, a $62 million investment for Black Oregonians facing needs for financial relief because of COVID. Thanks to the Oregon legislature, we are seeing new initiatives every day. That is Oregon. That's not the Oregon that I remember coming to when I was 18 years old and went to Albany for one night and was told I can't sleep here because of the color of my skin. This is much different than the Oregon I used to know. And so we are seeing this festering boil pop because of so much outrage that had been dismissed and ignored for too long. We are seeing folks putting their bodies on the line because we are tired of seeing one more Black person, one more of our neighbors, our fellow citizens, die because of unacceptable violence. We are in painful times. We are in trying times. Not everything we see is going to be perfect.
System
we
of
have
martial
to
arts,
realize
and,
that we are so far from fixing this broken system. And I want to acknowledge that we had hundreds of Portlanders, 300 Portlanders, many of whom testified in front of our city council this year, calling for real immediate funding to our community, defunding the police, a movement led by a powerful coalition of Black leaders to help us address our rent crisis, to help address the fact that we need food boxes, we need emergency loans for businesses. We are in a real crisis right now to save lives, and we cut that conversation short. And now we are saying, join a commission. When we cut off the voices of hundreds of Portlanders who showed up in front of City Council, and now we've had thousands of protesters who have shown up night after night for almost 3 months saying, well, we're done hearing you talk that way. This is a hard time, and I appreciate the civic leaders, our political leaders that are doing the tricky work of ensuring safety, ensuring that our businesses are safe. This is hard work, but we can't keep pretending like we are distracted. That is excusing ourselves from our moral responsibility to stay focused. We are here ready to work. Let's continue to talk about the policies and continue to take urgent action so we don't have to see another life dead.
Cameron, thank you very much. Question is, what impact are the protests having on the city of Portland as a whole, particularly the violent ones? I'm going to go to my colleague Deb Knapp, who's been looking into this lately, has some more information for us. Deb.
Well, Steve, KT's been documenting the damage downtown over the past few months. Our producers contacted 17 business owners by email, telephone, and in person, and only a couple were willing to speak with us either by video or join us for this town hall. Most did not respond to our request, but others were nervous about speaking out for fear of retaliation or having their message misconstrued. The ones we did reach say they want more done to control many issues plaguing downtown Portland.
Oh, they care more about the riot than they care about us. So I think we have bad management in the city for years. They don't care about the small businesses, and it's make it harder and harder. A lot of businesses come and go because they cannot survive in downtown. It's not friendly for the small businesses.
We have some clients who have homes on the East Coast and a home here in Portland, and they say they're afraid to come back to Portland. Or other people, we hear from clients who say they're moving out of the city and they're going to move to Bend or they're going to move to another place. And this is just not, we can't do this.
That was David Margulis with Margulis Jewelers. His business has been in downtown Portland for 88 years. His store, located on Broadway right across from Pioneer Square, suffered just a small amount of damage compared to other businesses. He joins us live from SCI. Welcome, David. Thanks for being here this evening.
Hello.
Let me ask you what your biggest concern about downtown is at this point.
Is turning Portland's downtown. Other cities have what are food deserts in communities. We're going to have a downtown desert again. Right now it's a twilight zone where people don't want to come downtown any longer, and because they feel that all of downtown is on fire, like the 2 or 4 blocks by the Justice Center. And my concern, and other people that have small businesses, I have 14 employees, their concern is that the business is going to end and there'll be nothing coming down there after that. The buildings are emptying out. The professionals and all the support business in these different buildings are staying home. And once they get used to staying home, they're not going to come back. And we could take a city and be the West Coast example, and we don't want to be that, of Detroit, where it started out 2.5 million people in the city and it went down to 750,000 because everybody leaves. Go downtown to Tucson and there are no stores to go shopping. There's nothing, no restaurants. There's no other life other than government buildings and a convention center with nothing around it. Portland has grown the last 30 years on a restaurant scene, business scene, all sorts of things that provide jobs to everybody. And if we don't have these businesses, we don't have the jobs, we don't have a tax base to pay for programs which we need. All these things are justified, but unless we get together and save our downtown, Portland's downtown is the heart of the whole state. It'll be gone and we won't have anything like it. We can use it to help everybody's lot. And I think we just don't want to lose our downtown. Other merchants were afraid to come and talk, and I don't know why they'd be afraid to come and talk, because I think we're all in this together. So, and it's not, I mean, I am totally in support of Black Lives Matter, but I feel that there are people who have hijacked the message at those violence being committed downtown have taken away a lot, and you're going to, instead of getting people and more people involved in it, you're going to alienate people if there's all this burning and destruction. Because if you destroy everything, we'll have nothing left to build.
David, let me ask you, what kind of support do you need or are you looking for from city leaders?
That's a good question. I think, first of all the commissioners need to get together and get behind. The mayor has said very logical things. The mayor has said things that make sense and respect the importance of the issue. But I don't feel the other commissioners, other than Commissioner Hardesty, comes out with issues, but the rest are kind of silent. Where are they? And so I think everybody needs to get behind the mayor and come together as a group and say, what do we need to do to work on the problem and get in the neighborhoods? And maybe we need to hire more police who are of the neighborhoods to be policing in their own neighborhoods to help. If there are 3 times as many murders in July as a year ago, we obviously have a huge problem there, but we won't be able to fund fixing the problem if we wreck our tax base and wreck everybody that supports anything.
David Margulis, thank you.
In here from Reimagine Oregon Project. Katrina, you've been listening to Mr. Margulis, and I'm sure you've heard about other business folks in downtown Portland concerned about what is happening down there and the future for this city. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. You know, I can't help. I have some family members and folks that I know who either carefully paid attention to or participated in the civil rights movement. This discomfort that folks are expressing on all sides across the spectrum, people feeling that this is the right thing to do and folks feeling like this is not the right thing to do based off whatever action is moving forward, is expected of this moment. This is a reckoning. At least I believe it is. This is a reckoning with Oregon's history. This is a reckoning with America's history. It is going to be uncomfortable. Alienation is inevitable. Disagreement is expected because we don't all need to agree on how we get these things done. What we do need to agree on is the outcome, which is state-sanctioned violence against Black bodies committed by the police, committed by the system, needs to end. And Black folks, other folks, people who've been witnessing or seeing this or who have experienced this are saying incremental change is not enough. In this conversation, I have heard multiple calls to action. I have heard multiple calls to question around Black leaders coming together on what potential solutions may be. For leaders to step up, our elected leaders to step up and take bold action in the face of criticism, to end the police violence, to end the state-sanctioned violence, to end racism in all of its forms, economically, in health and education. That is what is going to bring peace to this country. Telling folks how to respond is not. We've seen that. Folks have asked for it. Black folks have asked for it, of other Black folks. It does not work. What works is responding to the reckoning, responding to calls for momentous change. That is what we need in this moment. That's what we need to remain focused on. It is uncomfortable. It will continue to be uncomfortable. It's been uncomfortable for hundreds of years for people. Now's the time that we need to step up and take bold action.
Katrina, thank you. I want to bring back in City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. Apparently has something she wants to say about this. And Joanne, I just want to give you a little notice here. We're about 2 minutes from leaving our broadcast portion of the town hall and switching over to digital. So if I have to interrupt you in the middle of your section here, my apologies, but go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. I just wanted to say about downtown businesses. I am optimistic. You may remember we're in the midst of a pandemic. So the reason people aren't going downtown is people still are not comfortable with going downtown and doing things that we all did before the pandemic. We are also going over an economic cliff, and people are anxious about whether or not they're going to be evicted from their homes. We have about a 30% unemployment rate, and our economy is going to be tanked at least for the next couple of years. So there's no one thing that is driving this moment. It's all of these things combined. Why am I optimistic? Because I believe coming out of the pandemic, as we envision moving forward, we will have a more equitable downtown. Downtown will be more reflective of all the communities that make Portland home. So businesses come and go all the time, that's true. But we've never had a world pandemic. We're in it now, but we will get to the other side. It will be hard, as Katrina said. And honestly, I absolutely agree with Katrina. To tell people how to grieve and how to demand justice when you've been in the driver's seat for a long time is just pretty arrogant.
Commissioner, I have to cut you off for just a quick second here,
Okay.
as I promised. That does it for us for a broadcast portion of the town hall, but we are not finished, not even close. We'll be streaming the remainder of the discussion online at KATU.com. Coming up next, ABC's coverage of the Democratic National Convention. We'll see you at KATU.com. Thanks for watching, folks. All right, we want to continue our discussion now. And Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, I know you were not quite finished yet, so I want to give you that opportunity as we go to KATU.com now. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to end with, there are a lot of people who are calling me, emailing me, saying they are the Black voice. I have met with at least 12 groups that I didn't know existed 3 months ago and probably didn't. And so there's no way we can meet with everybody who says they lead the Black community. So I hope people will engage in these broader community conversations. We cannot process all the individual requests for financial money to do community projects. We have to plan this as a community. So that's what I want to say. There's a lot of new experts on what the Black community needs, and we have to do it in a very thoughtful way and not assume that any one Black person speaks for the entire Black community.
Commissioner, thank you. I want to go to Lakiana Drury now, who's from a company, in fact, it's called Word is Bond, is the operation. And Lakiana, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your presence here. Let's talk about what you've heard so far, what you need to hear before we end this program today as far as what's happening in this community, what still needs to happen for real, true discussion about justice here.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate all the voices in this room and over the internet that are engaging this dialogue. I think dialogue is the ultimate tool of nonviolence and what's ultimately going to solve these issues. What concerns me with the dialogue that we're having right now is that we've spent the majority of an hour so far on a town hall on race relations talking about protests, which are, as Michael had already talked about, is a largely white movement right now, and we're not talking about actual Black lives and what Black lives look like in this city and the issues that are affecting us. As an educator for 3 years at an alternative high school here in Portland, who worked with Black students, who worked with students of color, who now leads a nonprofit that works with young Black men, I wanted to name some of those issues that are in this community, because when we look at the violence that's happening on TV with the protesters, that's the violence that you see that is televised. But there is other violence that happens that's just as it is worse. When we want to talk about things that are burning, when we want to talk about communities that are on fire, the black community here in Portland has been on fire for decades, right? When you look at, we're getting ready to return to school this fall, that is violence. When you have all the tag classes with just white students in it and all the black students are in detention, that is a violence that's not making national headlines, right? When you have black students that graduate high school that don't have a real plan for themselves, that is violence, because where do they turn? When we have a system of mass incarceration where the police bureau has locked up generations of black fathers, and you have black boys growing up without seeing their uncles, without seeing their cousins, without seeing their fathers, that is black violence. When you have this neighborhood, when you go 2 blocks away and it is all gentrified, gentrification is violence, right? Violence that tastes good, correct? Because there's all these restaurants here, and so we want to return to a normal, and I want white folks to understand that when we say return to normal, that is a white supremacy normal, and that is not a normal that we should seek to return. And for all the white people that are downtown, there is a large majority that is silently waiting for things to return to a normal that should not return. We need to look at wealth building opportunities for black families, housing opportunities. We need to look at mental health and trauma. When we talk about 18, 19 homicides in July, and we look at the young people and say, what are the opportunities that exist for them in this city? Those are the violences that go unreported, unheard, and that's what our conversation should center on here. It is not about the protests, and we shouldn't seek closure of those protests. I've heard people say, well, we want to end the protests and then we can address these issues. We cannot pick and choose how we want protesters to be and then to have them close down so we can get back to normal. We have to deal with the underlying issues. I want us to keep this conversation on everyday black folks, not on me, not on the senators, I'm talking about people who live here, who have for generations been kept out. How do we deal with them? If someone else comes up to this microphone and says something about protests, we are having the wrong conversation. We have the resources in the city.
That's hard to say. Hear your CFO. We got loud there. Anyway, when I say the word Antifa, what comes to mind?
Low life scum.
Hopefully somebody heard that because I can't hear anything out here. When I say the word Biden, what comes to mind?
Nothing, because he has none.
When I say the word conservative, what comes to mind? So hard to hear. Sorry, guys.
The best.
When I say the word Donald Trump, what comes to mind?
The best president ever.
When I say the word education system, what comes to mind?
It needs a lot of help.
And when I say the word, what's the freest country on earth?
The United States of America.
Awesome. If you answer those, I appreciate it. Trace, thank you very much.
Yeah, have a great day. Bye.
Trying to still figure out this kind of joining thing here, but I'm going to try to go back to the full screen here if I can here.
Okay.
We do this thing.
Yeah, that was awesome. I didn't know that could happen.
Magic trick to it somehow. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Have a great day. Let me see.
You too.
Gonna be a way to say goodbye. If I do this.
You too.
Hopefully you were able to get in on there and say your words. Like I say, I'm having trouble hearing much of anything out here next to the road, you know, with all the honks and horns and people talking around here. I appreciate your answer to the questions there. It's so noisy, it's hard to hear. I need to get one of those speakers on my thing or something. I love this. I love it. There they go. There you go, guys. who was that? There was somebody there. Hey, Ostler. Actually, Ostler, if you're talking about the guy in Portland that was knifed, he's actually here, believe it or not. Black guy, I can't remember his Black Patriot, no, Black something, I can't remember. But anyway, he's over here, at least he was a little while ago. That's his car right there. Black Rebel, that's what it was, yeah. But anyway, I don't know if he's still out here, but he was out here taking pictures and videos. Good guy. Sandy police over here watching our back. Or maybe they're going to Taco Bell. The cop there? Thank you to the police officers. That's him who saying thank you. Appreciate that. Helped us out earlier. Thank you to the police guys. Say thank you, thank you, thank you to the police. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Blue Lives Matter. Thin blue line. We are show your support. Having it. Cops love their job. That guy's been cop for 12 years here. It's awesome to see. Posted here still. Must be a different guy you're thinking of, Bobby Gibson, than who I was thinking of. But the other guy who was knifed in Portland. Oh, you're talking about the guy from last night. I think of a different guy, yeah. Black Rebel was the guy that was here. She was here earlier. Oh, there's Black Rebel right there, guys. He was knifed in Portland a few days ago. Subscribe. Patriots all around, guys. Patriots all around. Not Patriots and Taco Bell right now that I'm aware of. They were making fun of some of us earlier, so. Good thing. Freedom around here. This is what I'm talking about. I love it. Patriots for freedom all the day. Don't be afraid to stand for your flag. You have to enjoy yourself. I'm gonna get a quick little interview from you guys for 20 seconds. Fun little interview. Okay, when I say the word Antifa, what comes to mind? Hey, I like that terrorism. Hey, I like it. When I say the word Biden, what comes to mind? No, that's a good one, yeah. Let's go with the C, conservative. Oh, for Biden, yep, yeah. But for conservative? Yeah. D for Donald Trump. Awesome. Education system, for an education system.
They need to get the education going.
Exactly. And the freest country in the world?
It's the USA.
There we go. Awesome, guys. guys, can I do a little 20-second interview with you guys real quick? Oh, I'll just do a quick little interview. When I say the word Antifa, what comes to mind?
I can't hear you.
When I say the word Antifa, what comes to mind? When I say the word Biden, what comes to mind? When I say the word conservative, what comes to mind? Awesome. I like it. When I say the word Donald Trump, what comes to mind? Come on.
Better get it. Better.
I like that. I like that. Current education system. The education system currently in America. Education system. Next one. What's the freest country in the world? Exactly. That's like a given right there. A+, guys. A+. Thank you for keeping it clean, guys. Thank you for keeping it clean. All lives matter. I like that. Gotcha. Follow, guys. Stuff in the future. Beautiful patriots out here, holding their flag really high. Look at that. Really, really high.
So he's in there discussing this.
Patriots for themselves. Portland, USA. You betcha. It's out in Sandy, but hopefully we get more Trump supporters in actual Portland. Some blue line. You betcha, guys. There you go. Patriots out there. Loving it, loving it. Patriots out there, all the way through. Are we gonna honk? Are we gonna get a honk? I knew that was coming. Oh, there's a nice looking car right there. Sweet ride, sweet ride. Nice lady. Come on, guys. Double thumbs up, double thumbs up. That's a big one. It's hard to do a double thumbs up out of the car. Gotcha. So nice comments, guys. 2020, guys. Keep following for more. Nice ladies out here. Patriots all around. great day. We had a few flip-flops here and there, but not many flip-flops at all. A lot of thumbs up, a lot of thumbs up, a lot of thumbs up. There guys, follow Him Who on TikTok. Good place to be. Vote red, you betcha. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the support out there. What else you guys want to see? Patriots across the street over there also. Should I do another interview? We'll do one more interview here. It's kind of hard to do it next to the road here because it's noisy sometimes.
It's about 10 minutes ago, a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah. Did I already interview you, or did I get you earlier? Did I already interview you yet?
Yeah, I haven't interviewed me yet.
Quick little interview, if you don't mind. When I say the word Antifa, what comes to mind?
Terrorist.
When I say the word Biden, what comes to mind?
Stupidity.
When I say the word conservative, what comes to mind? There we go. Exactly, I like it. When I say the word education system, what comes to mind?
Schools, Trump.
Yeah. When I say the word, what's the freest country on earth?
United States.
Awesome, thank you. A+. Here we go. 4 more
This
years.
is in Sandy, Oregon.
4 more
This is
years.
the pro-Trump rally.
There we go.
And an anti-Portland rally. And that's why it's peaceful. They're all armed.
Oh, I like it. Thank you, Cheryl. Nice job. Nice job. Let's see if we can see any BLM Antifa type people out here. Show me some love. Show me some love, guys. There you guys.
Gotta spend some time, love.
Happy to see
Gotta
us.
spend some time with me.
See
I
that.
will
There
let
we go.
you
Okay,
find
yeah, there you go.
love. I will possess your heart.
USA! USA!
Welcome in, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Sandy, Oregon is our home today, or for at least the next while. I'm also monitoring protests in Los Angeles, Louisville, and Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
You guys go.
And obviously the protest here in Portland begins at 8 p.m. at Kenton Park. As soon as we are live at Kenton Park in Portland, we'll shoot it over there. KGW still might be doing their thing.
Ridiculous.
No, they're done. They went. Oh no, that's the Democratic Convention.
So, torn and brokenhearted as to the protest. I also agree with some of the folks that came up here tonight and said that's not the issue that we, imagine when, 1965, the Voting Rights Act and Martin Luther King and John, Williams and all of the action was centered on when is this going to end versus what are the things that we need to do to, enact change. And so I'm very, optimistic to hear the mayor talk about systemic change and what that looks like from housing to education. COVID-19, one of the blessings is that it has convinced everyone that online and technology works. So how do we capitalize on that and create, and close the gap from an education perspective with young people, bring advanced technology to every zip code so that, whether it's learning your history so that we have pride and we're committed to, protecting our own neighborhoods because we're invested, that's the future. And as a business person, I just want to say that I'm goal-oriented. So when we convene people together like this, I want to know, what is the action that we plan to take? We should start this conversation with a scorecard. What did you say last time, and what have you done since then? Because we've spent an entire hour and a half talking about protests that we are not going to stop just by having this conversation. So how do we hold everyone accountable? How do we hold our civic leaders accountable by saying, we're getting together, let it be a think tank. What are the ideas that we want to generate? What are we going to invest in? How are we going to hold ourselves accountable? And the next time we come together, let's hold up that scorecard. What did we do? And then let's start there and go from there. And maybe we'll rebuild trust so that people will stop the protest in downtown Portland.
Denise, thank you very much. I want to talk to Nicholas Greer now. And Nicholas is the assistant professor, practical theology, spiritual care, counseling, as a matter of fact. And if there's any time that we really need some support to someone to inspire and kind of galvanize us, this would be the moment. Give me some words out there if you can, sir.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for having me tonight. And also, as someone who's a new Portland citizen, I find it necessary to acknowledge and honor all of the many black leaders who've been doing work in this community for years to come. This is not a new conversation for them. So I think it's important for us to say that we see you. And so acknowledging that, I think it's important for us to reflect on the fact that black folks have been criminalized in this country for years. So this conversation about how can we treat black people as human beings and not criminals, that's a given. We need to continue to commit energy towards that. I recently wrote a book called Care for the Mental and Spiritual Health of Black Men. And one of the reasons why I think this particular approach is important is because when we start from the ethic of care, that changes the conversation. When we start from the ethic of saying, hey, how can we care best for black folks, that changes the conversation. And so in addition to figure out how do we care best for black people, I think there are a couple of things for us to think through. So one is there are a few things that keep black people from thriving. One is the wealth and the income inequality. Another one is the ways in which there is a lack of opportunity for black people. And the third piece I wanted to raise is the trauma in black communities. When you think about the history of slavery, the history
that was my next one. Conservative and Trump would have been, yeehaw, right?
Oh, God.
It's all around there until that. Hold on. Follow. Like and follow, guys. Like and follow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 2020. Earl, are you having Alzheimer's issues? You might want to see a doctor about that. Fire department coming through. Make room, make room, make room. First responders. Make room, make room, make room. You betcha. Loving that. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the good support. Feel free to argue with the people that are not being very supportive, being foolish out there, making silly comments. Thank you guys. Good construction workers out there, loving it. Hard workers. Biden has Alzheimer's. Okay, yes. Sorry about that, Cheryl. I thought you were talking about the person I was interviewing. It is, I know. I don't want to blind you guys by showing you that sunset. It's beautiful out there, isn't it? Yes, indeed. Man, battery's getting low here, guys.
Oh, no, I got it online.
I love the flags. Thank you guys for all the nice words out there. I love the boats, A lot of people like their freedom here. I love seeing the Vietnam vets out here too. All right, Leo. Thank you, Ada. Very nice of you to say. Very nice of you to say. Thank you, Ada.
What's going on, Bill?
What's happening? You having fun?
Oh yeah, dude, I love these things, dude. This always pumps me up. Dude.
I know.
it's so nice to get out here and see people doing this. Because, especially when you get out there and you're seeing more of the other side.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people are saying on this. I'd much rather see this than they'd see protests in Portland. That they're used to seeing it.
That's the worst part about all of this, Ken, is that you can sit here for hours and still miss the best part.
What's up, guys?
Himhu right there.
I'm Himhu. I don't do Facebook, but if you guys are on TikTok, you can check me out. Himhu.
He's a youngster and everything. He's not into all that Facebook stuff,
No, Facebook doesn't like me. They kick me off.
Well, that's true, yeah.
I had one for like a week, and
I have got to run an errand
I just
really
started up
quick.
because I wanted to do my Patriot thing on there, and that was the only reason I got
concerned
on Facebook.
with
Within
leaving
a
this
week, they
on.
shut me down.
Wow.
They just deleted my whole account.
That's crazy. Well, yeah. If you guys are on TikTok, follow him. Himhu_.
Himhu, baby.
Hey, Cheryl, how you doing?
Come get some.
Hey, Herbie. Portland Andy will be on tonight. He's been on vacation last night, but he does a good job at bringing all the boot troop. I saw boot troop the other day in Salem himself and everything.
Fuck it. Okay.
As I know, sometimes they say they're independent. Like,
No, they're not.
Not when you have guys that they're having an American flag and you say that they're angry at the guys on the other side of the street. Not sure what that thumb was for there.
Trump! Trump! Trump!
Trump.
Trump 2020! Four more years! 4 more years!
Yeah, if you guys in here, follow Himhu on TikTok. Patriot out here out of Cottage Grove, but came up here to work and he ran into a flag wave. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. I don't have rights to that music, so I'm not going to walk too close to that area. I already muted one of my videos recently, so I don't want to mute anymore. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate that. Hopefully I'm keeping you a little bit entertained. Keep myself entertained walking around, get some exercise. Anybody want a hat? Tempting, right? Notice how there's no vandalism around here. No vandalism, no violence. Let's check them out, guys. Very peaceful. Trump 2020, there you guys go. You betcha. USA all the way. Peaceful, fun, freedom-loving Americans, loving life, enjoying themselves. Thank you guys for following. I appreciate that. Well, look how they protect their flag too. It's awesome. Awesomeness. Patriotic Americans out here, young, old, in between, loving life. Out there in Moo organizing a little Portland rally. Some more Patriots across the street there, loving it, loving it. There it is. You knew that was coming, even for a Swift truck. Here comes another one. There loud enough for you guys? Show people not to be afraid. Vote for Trump. Not be afraid to show your patriotism. Get out there and have a good time. Love life. Vote. There you go. Honk your horn. Let me get some honks out there if you guys hear me. Say a honk. For how many honks you would give these patriots out here. Give them a couple, 2, 3 honks or more. How many honks you're going to give us? Let's see more honks than that. Come on. How many honks? Show me some honks. And is your honk or horn the loud one like some of the trucks I see out here? Come on, give me a big honk. Trump 20 honk, honk. There's a honk. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Thank you for the honks. 3 honks. I like. There's a honk. There's another honk across the street. There's some more honks out there. Lily, how you doing? What's going on? Trump 2020. You betcha. Thank you guys for following. Thank you for following. I appreciate that. There's another one across the street there. There we go. Yeah. Not getting any fingers right now. It's almost more fun when you get some middle fingers that you can sort of laugh at. Right now, not many middle fingers. Love it. People of all ages out here having fun, staying dry. 4 more years. Say it with me. 4 more years. Or give me 4 more honks. How about that? Give me 4 honks.
4 more years. Maybe he could change the Constitution and have him in there for life. 4 more years.
There's Black Rebel guys again. Good guy. He's the guy that got stabbed in Portland for just being there, being an African American Trump supporter. He gets stabbed for it. Ridiculous behavior of Antifa and all these other crazies out there.
You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't know how to pull it back together. Like, you probably would, 'cause you love it.
Gotcha. All right, guys, let's see how close my battery is to dying here. 7%, 7%. All right, I'll stay going a little bit longer, guys. Otherwise, my battery's gonna die on me, and I may consider this gets shared, not saved. Again, that was him who over there on TikTok. Black Rebel down the way there. Plenty of other people out here that just love being patriotic Americans. It feels like a Trump train as I walk down here. You bet it does. Walking down the Trump train alley. There we go. That's 5%. Hey guys, thanks for joining. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. Want to see more of this kind of content here? We're going to do another one tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Tualatin, which is about 50 miles south of Portland. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. Have a great day.